Okay, February 18th, 2021. I'm happy to introduce to all of you Pittsburgh ASMP members, my good friend Angela Pan. We haven't met in the flesh, but we've been friends for about 5 years. And we first met online when I was taking a photography class that Angela was teaching. And it was through a big online photography website and system called the Arcanum that was started by Trey Ratcliffe in New Zealand. Some of you may have followed Trey's work. He's an amazing photographer and a really big marketer. So anyway, I took several classes with the Arcanum, but one of the best was with Angela. And I believe the class was called Marketing Your Photography Through Social Media. Is that accurate, Angela?
I think it was something like that. It's been a while, so something like that.
So we covered, it went on for many weeks. All the students had assignments, and as we finished our assignments, we got reviewed by our peers and reviewed by Angela, and then we moved on to the next. But during the course of the class, we covered Instagram, we covered Flickr, Twitter, Facebook, but I think we put a lot of emphasis on blogging and making the best website you can. And while we were in the midst of the course, I got committed to blogging 3 times a week about photography. And during the pandemic, I'm not at it quite as often, but still pretty regular, maybe once or twice a week. And I redid my website during the class, and I just learned a lot. And Angela and I have kept in touch by looking at each other's Instagram posts, and we chatted about photography opportunities in Iceland and all sorts of things. But what Angela does most of the time is she works on photography of the national monuments in Washington, D.C. And you might think in terms of cherry blossoms, snow-covered scenes, lightning in the sky behind the Lincoln Memorial or the Capitol building. Angela has fantastic compositions, very peaceful, serene scenes. I just I'm really enthusiastic about her work. And if you walk the National Mall and visit a bookshop there, you may see some of her images on postcards and prints. And if you fly into Baltimore Washington International Airport and go outside Terminal B, you might see her photo of the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial outside Terminal B. I think now I'm talking off the script here, but I think you've also had some of your photos in airline magazines and published other places too, right, Angela?
Yeah, and a lot of local magazines, things like that.
Okay.
Newspapers.
And just recently, she self-published a book called Snap DC. And when she told me about it, I immediately ordered it on Amazon. So it's a great little guidebook that tells you about great places to go and how to take great pictures of Washington, D.C. if you're visiting. And I'm a big fan of D.C. We lived there for 3 years while my husband, Charlie, was in law school. So anyway, Angela also does photo walks and one-on-one classes. And we have talked about shooting together, but we still haven't gotten around to it, but we're still going to do it.
Yeah.
And she's very active still with social media, with her blog, her website, her newsletters, her calendars, and Instagram. And tonight, she said she was willing to talk to us about some of the best practices that she uses on Instagram.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Kathy, for the introduction. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you about the things that I do on Instagram and some of the ways you can just gain some exposure or just have your images noticed on the social media platform. And since there are like, just like you guys seem to know each other so well and are just in a community together, I was wondering if I could just ask if one or two of you would just like speak and tell me why you are joining this class, because I know it's not like a mandatory thing or whatever. Like what interests you in learning more about Instagram, maybe how involved you are in Instagram now, or what you would like to get, basically what you would like to get out of this, if any of you had any ideas about that.
Okay, well, I'm joined Instagram about a year ago because I went to an ASMP meeting here in Tucson, where I am for the winter. And, I had resisted it for a long time and suddenly realized the value of it and started, posting stuff, but feel I need more guidance as far as hashtags, how to really make the most of hashtags, because I don't want to put a hashtag that's got 5 million followers or
Yeah.
5 million things posted in there. I don't want to get lost. I want to figure out how to get the attention of the audience I want to reach
Okay,
with my hashtags.
I see. Okay, I do have a little bit about hashtags on here. Not much, but if you wanted to ask me more personal questions, if any of you wanted to ask me more questions after this, I have my contact information on the very last slide, or Kathy knows how to reach me. Yeah, feel free to reach out anytime after this if you have more questions too.
Yeah, I just have Polly's question actually raised another question in my mind because in using hashtags, I was under the impression that if you use a hashtag that's very popular, that let's say, 500,000 people use, that was a good thing because that meant that that a lot of people look up that hashtag. I don't know. I suppose there's a lot of competition out there. Like, let's say it's Naples, Florida, which is where I'm shooting this winter. So if a lot of people look up Naples, Florida, then it's not a bad idea to use it.
Yeah, hashtags, as far as the large number of hashtags, like if you were using beautiful destinations or something like that, there's millions and millions of people or millions and millions of posts already in there. And to Polly's point, it could get lost and unseen and things like that. But if you're more specific, like Naples, Florida, something very locational based, and people who may be traveling to Naples or live in Naples are going to be using that hashtag. And those are the people that you want to target. If you wanted to target the travel destination, the travel agency, like in DC, sorry, I'm going to use a lot of DC references, but in DC, if you go to Visit Washington DC's Instagram, they have their own hashtag that's my DC cool. And so I will definitely be using that hashtag because that will get me in front of the people who I want my images to be seen by, which is the tourism board, but also people who are also interested in learning more about the city. So it's when you're using hashtags with so many people already tagged in it, it's a little bit iffy. And we'll talk more about hashtags, but I'll also talk about geotagging and other ways to be seen on Instagram and not just hashtags, because you're right, hashtags can get really lost.
Before you go on, what is geotagging?
When you tag the location of where you took your post, like if you took it in Pittsburgh, you say Pittsburgh, or sometimes I'll tag mine Washington Monument because it was a picture of the Washington Monument. It's just right under, when you post something, your name shows up, and then right underneath you can add a location.
Right.
So if you guys have any questions about Instagram or while I'm doing this presentation, feel free to stop me. I really wanted this just to be a conversation. I didn't have any like, I'm not so confined or restricted that you can't ask me questions. So feel free to ask me questions whenever during the presentation or after as well.
Okay.
The chat may be a little bit harder for me to pay attention to just because I'm paying attention to my slides and my notes at the same time. So that might be the only thing that might be hard. Just
I'll let you know if anything pops up in chat,
Okay.
Angela.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So let me share my screen. And this is just a little presentation that I created just for you guys.
Thank
so, let's, oops, sorry. So this was my actual first image that I ever posted on Instagram. When I first started Instagram, it was in August 2013, and I really didn't know what Instagram was, but I had a friend who was really pushing me into the social media app. I don't know how old Instagram actually is, but it was still very new at that time. And when I thought of Instagram, I really just thought, I'm sorry? I really just thought it was pictures of like food and like really bad filters and things like that. So when I first started Instagram, I thought it would be more of a personal place for me to post pictures where people could get to know me better and not just my photography, like who I was more as a person than just a photographer. But as I grew as a photographer and as Instagram grew as a photographer, I quickly learned that it's just a great way to gain exposure and for people to follow you. And not necessarily for me posting personal pictures all the time, which I do sometimes in my stories and sometimes in my posts as well. But there are different ways that people can get to know you as a person without like having to post this picture of me and my nephews in there. So, so I just thought I'd give you a little background of how I started. And this was my very first Instagram post, and you can still see it on my feed right now. So let's start with your profile, because this is, or your bio. This is the first thing that people will really see and notice when they go into your profile, and how they get to know you as a person. For me, I really wanted people to get to know me. That's why I started Instagram, and that's kind of what I've been going through as I've been posting on my stories or on my posts. I just really wanted people to get to know me. People in the DC area, I feel like a lot of my followers are people in the DC area or people who have connections to the DC area, whether they have visited or like Kathy, you lived here for 3 years and then moved out, but you still have that kind of emotional connection to the city. Mm-hmm. So I think me posting my monument images and things like that, people, my followers really resonate with that. Either they miss the city or they weren't awake for sunrise. I'm a morning person, so I'm always up in the morning taking pictures, and it's my favorite time to be out photographing in the city. So for me, I've quickly figured out that a lot of my followers are from Washington, DC. So like we had mentioned before, you want to get to know who your followers are. So as you can see in my profile, I added in my name, I put Washington, DC right there, because I know if you type in Washington, DC into the search bar of Instagram, Visit Washington, DC obviously comes up, but also my friend Lori comes up. Her name is DC City Girl, and her name in Washington, DC comes up. She has a lot more followers than I do, so that's why she shows up first. But if you put your location in your name and people are searching by location, like if you're in Pittsburgh or if you're in Naples, Florida, if you put your location as like your niche or your thing that you want to be known for, it will show up in the search. Or if you want to be known as a portrait photographer, like before we started this meeting, Archie mentioned that there was a poodle photographer in the community. And so if I typed in poodles, that person could have potentially shown up in this search, because
So
all you see,
I'm sorry, Angela, to interrupt you, because that was my question. So what you're saying, if I'm correct, is that in your name area, we should either put a location or our specialty. Is that correct?
Yeah, just because if people are on Instagram searching for whatever you specialize in or your location or whatever it is, if it's in your name, then it's going to be found easier. And you don't necessarily need like a hashtag or something like that to be found. Yeah, and feel free to interrupt me. I like it. So,
don't offer too much. I'll feel
okay.
too much.
I just like to have a conversation. I like conversation. You know, I think that helps me get through ideas easier too. So first piece of advice, I would put your location or whatever kind of photography or whatever kind of you specialize in or what you want to be known for in your name. So I have my name right here and Washington, D.C. That's just how everybody knows me. And so that's in my name. So it's easily searchable from there. And in your kind of the bio part, the actual information about who you are, I personally would really try to stay away from anything really cutesy or funny or anything like that. I'm very direct in saying that I'm an author, I'm a blogger, I'm a photographer, just because as soon as someone lands on your profile, you want them to know exactly who you are and what you do. So like Kathy mentioned, I wrote a book called Snap DC, and I think for me, my bio is an ever-changing thing. I probably changed it like a couple times this past month because I am always trying to evolve and make it simpler. So I just assumed that everybody knew what Snap DC was because that's the name of the book and things like that. But I'm probably going to go back in and create like wrote Snap DC in 2018 or Snap DC is your guide to taking better pictures of the Washington, DC area, something like that. But you want it to be very direct as to who you are and what they do, just so no one is confused by that when they land on your profile. And you also want your contact information there. Not everybody is comfortable going through the DM section because they feel like they could be lost or there's just, I don't know, you just want to make it really easy for people who want to contact you. So you give them options. I have my email address there and I've found that a lot of people will email me just through that as opposed to DM. I think when people email you, they're a little bit more serious and they're a little bit more professional when they do that. And so I think a lot of businesses or tourism boards or whatever the case is, they rather email you and send like a blast email or something like that than sending it through the DMs. So very direct as who you are, what you do, contact information. And then I have a link in bio here. I actually just switched this from a link tree, but basically in your link option, you're only allowed to have one link. I would put your website there or wherever you want that person to be directed. Most likely, I would say your website. And then in my link in bio, I just have all these images where if you click on it, it takes you to different blog posts that I've written, maybe a YouTube channel that or a YouTube video that I've created. Like for this image, my image was featured in a magazine, so I have that link there. I'm always experimenting with the links that I put there as well, just because I don't know what's right yet. So, so that is my basic bio information that I have there.
Yeah. Now, Angela, those circles, are your photos in categories?
Yeah, these are highlights actually from your stories. And we can talk about that when we get there. But, you know, stories, when you post onto your stories, it's 24 hours. And after 24 hours, they go away. Mm-hmm. So when you add them to your highlight, they show up in these circles right here and they last for longer than 24 hours. So you can also categorize them too. So right here in the ABP one, I have just a lot of more personal stories that I wanted to save in my ABP part. I have a lot of Washington, DC images. So that's in the Washington. When I travel to New York, I actually live in Virginia. I don't live in DC. So I have Virginia category there. So it's just a whole bunch of different categories of images for my stories that I've wanted to save in my highlights so that you can see them right there too.
Okay. And will you show us how to save a story as a highlight?
Oh, I wasn't planning on it, but I can.
Okay.
Let's go back to the presentation.
Pretend like we know nothing about them.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, I feel like I should have thought of that.
Pretend like we're your great grandma.
Okay.
Not your grandma, but your great grandma.
Okay. Okay. So
Getting on Instagram.
Yeah.
We're all ready to move up from Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah. We know how to open the app. Right?
Okay. Okay. So
I have opened a PDF.
So yeah, so if you do have any questions about anything that I'm saying or anything that you see, stop me, because I probably was assuming that you guys were my mothers as opposed to my great grandmas then.
Angela,
Yes.
I'll just mention one thing that I remember learning from you when we did the class, and I think would be a useful thing to share. And you probably have this in your plans for tonight, but I liked the way you taught us how to tie things together. So let's say, I remember you teaching us about putting a very short link in an Instagram post with a bit.ly link. And you also were reminding me when I put a photo on Instagram or put a photo in the blog that I had a link back to the website where you could buy it. So
Yeah.
I think it's useful, and it would be useful to share tonight the ideas of how you can tie things together by having links to your blog and links to your website.
Unfortunately, with Instagram, it's really difficult to have links. I'm sorry, the only real link that you have is that one link in your bio, because that's why I'm testing out the different links that I can put in there, because if you have it in the caption of your post, it's not clickable. People would literally have to type out bit.ly.com/whatever numbers and letters it is.
Do a cut and paste, copy
Yeah.
and paste.
It's not as easy as it is. Like on Facebook, super easy. I'd highly recommend that for everything that you do, to always have those little short links, or on Twitter, or even Flickr. I think I haven't been on Flickr in a while, but I think even on Flickr, you can have those links as well. But that's the thing about Instagram, that you can't really have those links in your posts. It makes it super difficult. That's why I'm experimenting with the links in my bio. So I can have multiple links, or I could just have one link directly to my blog or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Angela,
Yes.
before we get slogged down in details about links and what works better, can we maybe have a quick sort of discussion about, one social media platform versus another, and kind of like, why Instagram is an appeal versus Facebook versus Flickr and whatever else is out there. My kids tell me that Facebook is for old people and LinkedIn is more up to date. Then there's Snapchat and whatever else there is.
Yeah. So for me, I kind of agree with your kids that there's different audiences for different social medias. For Instagram, I feel like I've been able to connect with tourism boards. I've been able to connect with magazines. It's, for me, it's more of businesses that I've been able to connect with, but I've also made tons of friends on Instagram just by going to photo walks and photo meetups and things like that. For me, Facebook, I do find that is a little bit of an older crowd, and they aren't necessarily the ones that are going to go on photo walks. They aren't necessarily the ones who are also going to invite you to go to events or anything like that. They're really there just to enjoy your images, and that's great too. I feel like on Facebook, it's so easy to share your content on there that I feel like I have a lot of great support from people on Facebook sharing my images with their friends and things like that. So on Twitter, for me personally, I've been able to connect with more influencers that are popular in our area, like newscasters, or since I take a lot of pictures of landscapes and the monuments at sunrise, I'll tweet my images to the weather people in our area and be like, hey, did you see this great sunrise? And tweet them a picture of it, and they'll be more likely to retweet it to their audience, or they'll even put it on the news sometimes. So I think for everybody, you need to just find who your audience is and what social media they are, who you're actually trying to connect with. But for me personally, I use Instagram the most, just because out of all of my experiences, I feel like I've gotten the most opportunities from it, and I've connected with more people and just made a lot more meaningful friendships from Instagram.
How about LinkedIn?
I'm not on LinkedIn as much, just because for me, LinkedIn is very professional. And if I was more of a commercial photographer, I could see LinkedIn as a great social media to show my work and things like that. But as far as LinkedIn, I'm just honestly not on it as much as I probably should be. There is so many social medias, like on Pinterest. I think that I should be more active on it too. It's just so much to keep up with all the time that it can
I have
get
trouble
a little
keeping
bit
up with just Facebook and Instagram. And I
Yeah,
only started Instagram because I found a lot of my pictures were shared there, whether I put them there or not.
exactly.
And I
yeah.
wanted to control the conversation.
Yeah, that's true. That's another true thing too. That's, I think, a complaint that a lot of people have, is that it's easy to share other people, or to copy and to share other people's work like that without really giving them much credit. So yeah, that's another reason why to just be on there and regulate, I guess. So back to what I was going to say about this. I was going to just talk about posting your images on Instagram. So I heard that if you want to be very active on Instagram and to gain a huge following really quickly, you have to be really consistent with your posting and your posting schedule. Your audience is going to start expecting you to post things on a regular basis, especially if you start out with a schedule. Like when Kathy and I were doing the Arcanum class together, we had a guest speaker named Professor Hines, and he is humongous on Instagram, and he posts on his Instagram 3 times a day, every day, morning, lunch, night. And for me, that is just not sustainable. I would maybe do it for like a day or two, and just, I wouldn't be able to keep up. So,
Isn't that the kind of thing where you can preload things and schedule when they post?
Yeah, you could do that.
You don't have to sit and actually manually do all this.
Yeah, there's programs like Hootsuite or later.com where you could pre-schedule those posts and just have them go out. But I do think that people know if you pre-schedule it and it doesn't seem as authentic. Like for some reason, people know because a lot of times when people are posting their images right then and there, they're going to hang around a while and just like comment back on your comments, or they'll share it on their stories right away. There's just there's something a little bit more authentic about doing it yourself as opposed to pre-scheduling. But I mean, if that's the way that you want to do it too, and that's sustainable for you, then yeah, that will be okay. But for me, posting 3 times a day was not a thing that I felt like I could commit to. Even sometimes 1 time a day was a little bit difficult for me. At the beginning, I was posting every day. And after a while, it got to be a lot, especially during COVID. I kind of slowed down my posting just because I wasn't out taking pictures as much. So I do try to post at least a few times a week. But it's up to you to post whatever you are comfortable with when you feel comfortable, and just have a regular schedule that your audience will grow to recognize and to be to expect your images. So when you post, it's important to engage with your followers too. When they start commenting, when they start sharing your images and things like that, Instagram really pays attention to that. I know that all of you guys have probably heard of the Instagram algorithm and how it might be difficult to have your images seen. One of the things that Instagram really pays attention to is if you're interacting with your audience, because people are taking the time out to write you a comment or to save your images, to share your images. And they just want to know, Instagram just wants to know that you're reciprocating and you appreciate that. So once someone comments, it's important to not necessarily comment right away or reply right away, but just to like know that you're engaging with your followers, that you're really in this social media to be social and to really interact with everybody that you're talking to. It can be really difficult, but yeah.
I've heard that the best way to gain followers, or to not actually gain followers, but gain clients through Instagram, is to comment on the spots you want to get hired by. So if there was an if there was an ad agency that we wanted to work for, we should follow them and comment on their posts, not pester, but comment, and see if we can't gain ground, and then follow up with a postcard or a letter or something like that.
Absolutely. That's just a great, that was just another side of the coin. Like once people comment on your images, it's important for you to comment on other people's images too, so that you can be seen. A lot of times I'll be commenting on the Visit Washington, D.C. Instagram page, or I'll be commenting on the local magazines in my area, just so that they don't forget who I am, or they might notice a new image that I just posted on. Like when they see my name, they'll click on my profile and they'll start seeing some of the images that I just recently posted. So it goes both ways. You want to comment on the comments that you get, but you also want to leave comments for other people too. Just recognize who you want to work with or who you want to be seen by. Start following and commenting, liking, even messaging.
I always have homework after these sessions.
Yeah.
A lot of homework.
Yeah, I mean, Instagram, especially if you want to gain a lot of followers, if you want to just really be, I don't know, influencer or whatever it is, it's just a lot of work. You have to put the work in if you want to get it out, And then in here, I was also going to mention the hashtags, which we briefly talked about. You're right that you could get lost in hashtags. But I will go to those people that I want to be seen by, like the Visit Washington, D.C. They have their own hashtag, my DC cool. So that's one of my first hashtags. I'm always hashtagging on my images. Sometimes I'll even tag my post of the Lincoln Memorial or the Washington Monument and tag Visit Washington, D.C. onto my posts. When I'm geotagging, I'll geotag the National Mall. And I think the National Mall even has their own hashtag. All National Park Service has their own hashtag, NPS, things like that. So for me, because it can get a little overwhelming with all the hashtags and all the people that you want to comment, I'll kind of spend like 10 minutes and research the people that I want to see my images and copy it, make notes in it on my notes app on my phone, just so I can copy and paste it for next time I'm posting on Instagram, just so you don't have to keep on thinking about who are these people that I want to keep on going to. It's just right there in your notes. I have a notes page that says Instagram hashtags, and I know to go there.
Is that how you question? I have a question.
Sure.
So you were talking about you were able to get to like a sub hashtag from Visit DC to cool, whatever it was. So how did you find that?
So a lot of my images are hashtagged. Let me show you what I have, if I can find my own hashtags. So Snap DC is my own hashtag because I created that book. Washington DC is just like an overall thing, and then my DC cool. When I click on it, that's Visit Washington DC's actual hashtag.
So how did you find that?
I just went to Visit Washington DC, and on their profile, my DC cool, tag your pics, my DC cool.
Oh, okay.
So you have to do a little bit of research of if the people that you're following have their own hashtag, or I would just click on their images and look at the hashtags that they're using.
Okay.
Maybe copy those.
Okay.
IGDC is huge in the DC area, so is Walk with Locals, a Creative DC. Those are a lot of the hashtags that I use as well, just because I know Washington DC or Visit Washington DC are using those hashtags too.
How do you get your first follower? How do you let people know, or you just put it out there and people find you? Is that?
Yeah, I tell my friends, I tell my cousins, I tell family members, follow me on Instagram, share my pictures if you like them. And it's just, for me, I would rather grow my following organically instead of paying for my followers, because I think also people can tell if you pay for followers and if you have like thousands and thousands of followers, but you only have 2 likes, people are going to know you're paying for followers, and it's not authentic. And people are all about authenticity and being true to who you are on social media.
Or if you read the comments, they're like really bad.
Exactly.
Every comment is basically the same.
Yeah, or they're spam, or
yeah. So when you put your hashtag, do you put it directly underneath the caption? You leave a couple lines, put the caption. I've seen other people wait and put the hashtags in a comment.
Mm-hmm.
What is the best way to put the hashtags?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I personally put it in the comments, but I see other people put it in the tag or the post description.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be something that I look up, because that is an interesting question. I honestly don't know which is the best way to do it.
Okay.
Let me research that and I could follow up with you in doing that. But I personally put it in my comments just because I don't want my description to be kind of messy.
So then you would just put a clean title and that's it.
Yeah. So in my next slide, I was going to show you guys. This was my post from last week. It was Chinese New Year last week, and I'm Chinese, and so it was like important for me to celebrate the new year, the Lunar New Year. So for me, so another way to keep on top of Instagram's algorithm is that they want to see that people, your followers, are on your post for as long as they can be. So when you see a lot of influencers or a lot of people with like huge followings, they have longer descriptions or like post descriptions on for their image. It's because they want to keep you on their post for a long time. Like if you have like 1 or 2 sentences or like an emoji as your description, people are just going to scroll through right away really fast. But for me, I don't always do this, and I should be better at this, but for me, I try to write at least 3 or 4 sentences just so people can spend a little bit of time reading my description and what is on my mind. I'll either write about what's on my mind, what's going on that year, what's going on while I was taking the picture, maybe a fun fact about the Washington Monument, or who I was out shooting with and like it was so much fun. Something along those lines. Basically, it's a conversation starter for your followers and for them to get to know you a little bit better too. That was a way for me, for people to get to know me too. That like my family's from Taiwan and we visit very often. I haven't been in a while, so that's why I said that I'm missing Taiwan a little bit more than usual, because I just haven't been there in a while, especially from the pandemic. You can't travel there. So keep your posts a little bit longer and just pretend like you're writing to a friend. Just keep your conversation genuine and people will reply and will want to engage with you when you have a little bit longer of a caption and you keep it genuine and very conversational. So besides this one image, I also posted 4 other images that I captured in Taiwan. This also keeps in that same carousel. Like you can post multiple images in the same post. And once people see that you have multiple images images, they're going to keep on clicking through. Not only are they going to read the longer caption, they're going to keep on clicking through and just stay on your post longer. So that is another way. Whoops, sorry. That is another way to keep your followers on your posts a little bit longer. And especially if you're one of those people who like to take behind the scenes videos of where you are, like you just take a really quick video of your camera with like the beautiful sunrise, or like a picture, like a selfie video of you just having a great time, post that in your carousel as well. Videos, obviously you're going to stay on your posts longer when you have videos and people want to watch the entire video. These are just different ways of keeping your followers more engaged and resonate with your images. Let's say they didn't necessarily like this picture that I posted. This was the very first picture that I posted in that series, but they may really like this picture, this self-portrait that I posted, or they'll really like this lady with this wig and the flower in her hair. You know, like it's also another opportunity for people to see more of your images, but also resonate with a different image in your series. Because oftentimes when we go out to take pictures, we're not just taking one picture and then you go home. You take a lot of pictures that could fit well into the series, even if you don't do it all in one day. Like if you're doing like a palm tree appreciation day, then we could just post all these different images at sunrise, sunset, in the middle of the day with birds, all in one post. And that will keep your followers there longer.
Yeah, Angela, question. You know, sometimes I feel limited by the square format of Instagram because I have a composition that really works, that's rectangular. And then I look at it on Instagram and I think, you know, it just kind of, it doesn't fly when it's square. Now right here, these images look rectangular. Is that just because of the way you did the screen capture, or are we always limited to square images?
No, these are the Instagram ratios, like the way that Instagram actually sees the images. They're not necessarily square. They are more, I think it's 4/3 or
2x3?
no, 4 by, I'm sorry, 4. No, yeah, 4/5.
Okay.
16:9 is the ratio that you can post on Instagram. So if you wanted to keep your exact ratios of how you captured it in camera, that's why a lot of people put those white bars on the side.
Okay.
So that you can keep the actual ratio that your camera captured in.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to do that because it doesn't take up the whole square. And I personally like the look of the whole image taking up the entire frame, but I've seen a lot of other people do it too. But they do it for the entire feed. So it looks very uniform when you look at their entire feed.
All right.
So it's up to you. I think that's a personal preference thing. I don't know if it really makes a difference other than it's a personal preference as to how you want to present your images. So how long do we have for this? Because this is a little longer than I thought it would be.
Flexible. It's flexible.
Okay, good. So the biggest thing that Instagram is pushing right now is called Reels. They're 30-second clips of videos that they have. So this is Instagram's way of competing with TikTok and with Snapchat. And if you post a Reel, it's very likely that you'll get on Explore. You'll be on the top when people open the app. You'll be one of the first things that you see because Instagram is really pushing Reels right now. So it's a video, short clip videos. And this is one of the things I need to get better at because I don't have any Reels and I need to start posting them. But I wanted to show you guys an example of this Reel that I posted on, an example of this Reel. So this is from Jeremy Cohen. He's a photographer in New York. And what he basically did was take like a really quick, maybe 2 or 3 second video, like a behind the scenes of what he was doing, and then just had a collection of his images, 2 seconds, just as like kind of a slideshow type thing.
Mhm.
So this is what he's doing.
Oh, God.
So as you see, it's just a really fast thing. He had a 2 or 3 second video in the beginning. You don't even necessarily need that. You could just have like a series of images, just something a little bit more interesting. And I think that it can be a lot of fun and a new way to present your images. But this is one of the top things that Instagram is doing right now. It's really pushing Reels, and it keeps your followers engaged. They stay on your posts longer, and it's just something fun that you could do. And I would highly recommend doing Reels. And you could do it with any kind of series that you did. He has so many of these on here, and they're just a lot of fun to play around with and to do. Another thing that Instagram has been doing is also IG Lives, and there's different ways of doing it. You can do it, and you will see if you're on Instagram while someone else is doing an IG Live, an Instagram Live, you'll see a pop-up like, you know, Angela's doing a live right now, or you'll see, you know, Visit Washington, DC is doing a live right now. It's a great way to be seen if you're doing a live. And what's great about them is that you can also save them, and you can save them as a reel, depending how long it is, or if you want to edit them, or you could save them as an IGTV, which is just like Reels, but longer. Reels are 30 seconds. IGTV is up to an hour. So, and then when you do Instagram Lives, they're only an hour. So this is just a screenshot of Professor Hines, who I mentioned earlier. We did an IG Live together where we just talked about our images and like our photo flow and what we do as far as editing and things like that. And it was just an hour long. People were asking us questions the whole time. It was a lot of fun to have that conversation and people to watch that conversation and to ask us questions and everything. And it's just another way to create content for Instagram.
Interesting.
Doing that.
So is there a way we could look that up if we want?
Yeah. It's a part of your stories on Instagram. It's hard to show you on desktop because I don't think you can do it from your desktop. But to do that, you just to do that. Sorry, I'm having like a brain fart right now. Obviously, when I'm like on the spot, I can't show you. But I think it's the plus sign. When you're on your profile and you see the little plus sign on there, you can start a live, I believe. Or let's see. I think
Looks like I have
sorry.
Katie Couric doing a live right now.
Yeah, so you get the notification without even really being on the app. You can just get an Instagram right now, or and the notification of who's doing the live. So when you go to your stories, on the bottom here, you can either post a reel or you can start a live. The very last option is doing a live. Can you see that on my phone? Okay. Yeah, you can. The only thing about lives is that you can only do it on your phone. It's not on the desktop version.
Okay.
Of Instagram. And then you can save them and have them on your IGTV and have people watch a recording of it, which is great because you create content with a friend or by yourself if you're out on a photo shoot, and it can be saved that people can watch it and it lasts longer than a story. And I've seen people create series out of it, like Monday morning motivations. They'll like get onto IG Live, answer some questions, have like a motivational quote for the morning and get your week started. And if you do it every Monday, or if you're very consistent of when you have like a schedule of what you want to do, people are going to start looking forward to it and really want to follow you. They'll start sharing with your friends. There's just so many different ways of creating content for Instagram. One last thing, that content creation that you can create on Instagram that I wanted to talk about is guides. Guides aren't as developed as other things are, but the 3 things that are most shared on Instagram or on social media in general are things that are entertaining, things that are informative, and things that are, things are entertaining, informative, and inspirational. So if you create a guide, see, I created this guide of favorite places to photograph in Washington, D.C. for sunrise. It's so informative. There's so many different ideas of places that you want to go. The people who are following me on my page already have some kind of connection to Washington, D.C. So they're going to want to share it with their audience, with their friends, with whoever they think, if they knew a friend was visiting DC in the springtime for cherry blossoms, they're going to want to share this guide with their friends. So being able to create guides, which is basically a long form, I'm not sure if I can pull it up, the desktop version. Oh, I can. So basically on these guides, it's kind of like a short way of creating a little blog post or something informative that you can create for your followers. That could really help them. Yeah, and it was really fun and easy to create. I just wrote a few, like a sentence or 2 about each of these images, and I got a lot of shares and comments about it.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Where did you make the guide?
Yep. So I'm sorry. This is another thing that I don't think that you can do on your desktop.
That's
so when
okay.
you go on your profile, the little plus button on top, and then the very last option on there is guides.
I'm sorry. The plus, like at your face.
The plus up on top by my profile or by my name.
Okay.
Looks like I probably need to update it.
Oh,
Plus,
yeah.
I see it.
Yeah, and then you can either create a post from there, a story highlight, IGTV, reel, or guide. And so that's where you want to go for your guide.
Oh, you need that picture, huh? Yeah.
Didn't even know those existed.
Yeah, it's a new thing. And the thing about it that I don't like right now, but I think it's going to get better, is that people can't comment directly onto your guide, or people can't directly like your guide. But once I posted it, I did get a lot of feedback from it, and I know a lot of people shared it. But I think that's going to develop a little bit more. Like if you want to, and you can create guides about so many things. Like if you're a photographer, or obviously you guys are photographers, but if you have a lot of other photographers following you, you can make a guide about your favorite gear or your favorite lenses or your favorite photographers that you follow. There's so many different guides that you can create, and so informative that people are going to want to share right away. You know, this information is great. And if I want to take pictures like this person, then I need to get this lens, or whatever the case is.
Or more commercial guides on how to have a successful commercial shoot and what it costs. And so you could be an educational asset to your
great
clients.
idea. Yeah. Yeah. And then so when you're commenting on those ad agencies that you want to work with, you can just, send them this guide and be like, this is why I'm the photographer you need to work with. You know your stuff, and you're proving that in this guide. Yeah, that was a great idea.
Yeah.
So lastly, I was going to say that, not last, but second to last, I think, is that you want to post things when it's relevant. Like I posted this image on an actual snow day that we got. And so people resonated with that, they felt it. And so I got a lot of engagement with this image. But you don't want to post a snowy image on like a summer day in June. It just doesn't really make sense. If you're photographing sunrise, I tend to try to post my image before 10 a.m. because those are my early morning people, and those are the people who are going to maybe appreciate a sunrise. But you don't want to post like a night picture before 10 a.m. It just doesn't make any sense. So those are the type of things that you also want to think about, like the type of pictures that you're posting and what time, and who you're trying to engage with. If you have a business account with Instagram, you can also see what time your followers are on the app the most. Like if they're on between 4 or 5 before they're ready to get off of work and they're just bored and they're going through Instagram, the analytics on the business accounts can tell you what time also that they're on the most.
Nobody does that.
Just an example. I wasn't saying anybody does that.
Hi.
Yeah, but there's like just so many different ways of posting. So that could be your once a week time. Like on Thursdays at 4 o'clock, between 4 and 5 p.m., you know, most of your followers are on at that time. So that could be like your schedule of when you want to post your images. There's just smarter ways to go about that. And last thing that I wanted to talk about is posting on your stories. That's also how you post Instagram lives. How you can also post reels is through going to the story app. But there are a few of these, or the story part, but there are a few of these that are a little bit more engaging than others. Like when you ask questions, when people reply and ask, say like, so you can hit this button, you can hit this button questions and to ask your followers to ask you a question, and people start asking you questions. Or if you're trying to get opinion about something and people start replying to your opinions, when Instagram sees that people are engaging with your stories, they're going to push up your stories even more on the app. So if you have like these polls and you're polling about like what's better, Pizza Hut or Domino's, and people are actually replying to those polls, Instagram is going to start pushing your stories up higher on the list. It's not really who posts stories at what time, it's who has the most engaging stories. So they're going to want to post those more. So questions, polls, this, you know, how much you like slider and this quiz are all going to be buttons that are going to create the most engagement with your stories, and probably the ones that you want to use so that you can be pushed up to your stories higher. But that doesn't say that you should only do that, because I don't only do that. I just do that when I feel it's necessary or I'm wanting to do that. And reply to the people who send you messages to those, just so that Instagram sees that you're being engaging as well. Last but not least, when you click, again, you can't do this on the desktop version of Instagram, but when you post something on your feed, you can click on Post Insights, and then you'll see how many times people have liked your images, how many people have commented, how many people have shared your images, excuse me, and how many people have saved your images. So I recently saw, and I don't know how true this is, because no one really knows like what the algorithm really does. But like I saw that if more people are sharing your images, it's going to be higher ranked on the algorithm. So basically it goes from sharing, which is this little airplane looking guy, to saved, because people like your image so much that they want to save it, or they like your information so much that they want to save it, or whatever the case is. Then it goes to comments, because it takes more time for people to comment on your image than to like your image, because liking your image just basically takes 1 second, and then you keep on scrolling and moving on. So you basically, the point is that you want to get people to share your image, and it's either informative, inspirational, or entertaining are the most 3 important things.
Where is Post Insights?
So if you go to your post that you just posted, if you go to View Insights, you'll see that right there on your profile.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got it.
And you'll see information like that.
Okay.
Right there.
Polly, on the top 3 bars, when you're in your profile in the top 3 bars, you can go to Insights there, and you can go back as far as you want to go, and you can see your insights and your stories and everything else.
Okay.
Yeah. So those were just the topics that I wanted to go over with you guys today. It was a lot. And if you guys have any questions, this is how you can contact me. My website is abpan.com. On all of my social medias, I'm abpanphoto. And then my email there is too, if you have any questions for me about Instagram or social media or even DC, anything.
Thanks, Angela. That was really informative. I've got a
great.
question. In my case, I am two kinds of photographers. So, for example, I'm a sports photographer, but I also do botanical fine art. And so I was advised to get two Instagram accounts. And but I'm not benefiting from any synergy between the two. Well, first of all, so I have a question. Do you think I have to have, so say you're an architectural photographer and a poodle photographer, two unrelated. Your poodle people don't want to see architecture, your architecture people don't want to see your poodles.
Yeah.
Well, do you think you should have two separate entities?
I would think about the reason why I'm on Instagram and if it was to sell my poodle photography or if it's to sell my architectural photography. And if it's both and I want to equally do them at the same time, then I would probably do two different Instagrams for that. But if the architectural photography is the one that I want to be most known for, or the most seen for, or the one that I want to get more clients for, then I'll probably just keep my feed as architectural because I don't want to confuse people either. That's why they probably suggested the two different ones. I'd probably put the poodle photography in my stories just to, you know, like, hey, I also like dogs and I can take pictures of dogs too, you know, but I'd probably just keep my feed architectural.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I have a question. I'm sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once here tonight.
You are.
I'm gonna be straight to the point. All this is great. I love it. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Does it equal money? Does it equal getting paid? This is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
This is where I have a real problem and an argument and a disconnect, and I'm always trying to find someone to say, Elliot, you're a moron. I want to know if I'm going to do all this work and get any money out of it, or if I should just basically do nothing and make money elsewhere.
Yeah, well, it depends on how you make money now, I think. If you're not really making any money from doing what you're doing, then I would say that it's, worth a try. But the way that I can make money from it, or other people, I don't necessarily do that, is through the sponsorships, through working with companies and posting about their product or their brand or whatever the case is. I've seen a lot of people do it that way. But for me, I've personally connected with magazines, through other people, through Instagram, and I don't necessarily have to post the images that I take with them on my social media. I do if I want to, but they don't pay me to do that. They pay me because they've seen, it's kind of like a portfolio. Like when you post all of your images, it's a portfolio of all the work that you've done, and businesses and things like that can see that. And they're like, hey, you're really good at photographing the Washington Monument. Can you photograph the Washington Monument for me from this angle or whatever the case is? Or I've had people buy my prints through Instagram. So it's not necessarily guarantee that you're going to make money. It's just if you put the work into it and you connect with the right people. But the best part about Instagram and all the social media and stuff like that is you really never know who's looking at your work. Like you could get 2 likes on your post, but then the like could be from CEO of National Park Service or something like that. You never know who's looking at you and what influence or what reach you have with Instagram, because it could go far if you're doing the right things with it.
And
Thank you.
And Taffy, I posted to the chat a JPEG or a image of the different formats that Instagram likes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
At least you can crop it to there, and you're a little bit more in control then that's square.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ken, when you said people shared your work, that's the reason you got it on Instagram in the first place. Was it credited when they shared it, or no?
No, I think we all understand that the Instagram audience is younger than this group in the nicest way possible. No, I've been tagged. Well, the thing is, if you don't have an Instagram account and they grab my picture off of Facebook and they put it on Insta, then there's nothing to tag.
Yeah.
So I feel like I have to have the Instagram account. I have to have the handle that matches my name. And if you're going to see the picture over there, at least then I got a shot of them crediting it completely. Because if I'm not mistaken, Instagram absolutely hates watermarks.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, if that picture goes over there, if it doesn't have my name attached to it in the post, it's not mine anymore.
Well, it's yours, but we have a problem, you know, as a sports photographer, some athlete sees, because you tag their name, and so they just screenshot it and then they put it to their feed with 1 million followers, and nobody knows you took that
Right.
picture. But there is a way, and it's called, there's repost apps, you know, and I wish their team media people would say, hey, you know, if you're going to take someone's photo of you, just repost it. And it takes like 5 extra seconds, but you know, that person gets credit. And it has a little icon in the bottom, a little square, and it says repost.
And I think we all need to remember that we're part of the business and we understand how this works and we understand copyright and all that stuff that frankly, my mom doesn't understand and nobody that I know understands that's not in the business. So I have my photos yanked all the time and cropped and cut, and changed colors and reposted without any credit. So it's not how I'd like it to be.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, you know, I've gone into a couple of people who I personally know and said, hey, I really love the fact that you're using my picture as your profile image. Here, let me give you a different one that fits the Facebook algorithm that when you click on it, my logo shows up rather than you having cropped it out.
That's a nice way of saying that.
Sometimes it works and sometimes
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Well, we have passed the Case Act. So if it's a company that has taken your picture, you can walk down to your local magistrate and get $12,000 from it.
What I like.
Go do it.
Yes, Angela, that's what I forgot to tell you earlier, is that ASMP National lobbies in DC quite often. I mean, there was a lot of lobbying going on for the Case Act that allows photographers to sue in small claims court for copyright infringement versus going to federal court. It hasn't started yet, but it passed December 27th with everything else.
Okay, cool. That's great.
And again, I sent you links as well to your email of the DC chapter of ASMP.
Thank you.
And something else.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sign up. No.
I have a question. So on average, I have about 2,000 followers, but when I go to look at those insights, I'm only reaching like a quarter of that. Like, is that because of the algorithm, or is it like I'm not doing?
Yeah, it's the algorithm. I'm in the same boat as you are. Like I have 8,000 followers, but it definitely doesn't reach that many. And even on my stories, I think I get like 300 views or something like that. And it's really the algorithm and how interactive you are with people, how often you post, all of that matters. And I don't know if anybody knows the actual secret of like how to get your post seen by every person possible that's following you or anything like that. But yeah, that's why just everyone complains about Instagram and getting it seen.
Justin, I'll agree with you. Now that you said that, I looked it up. 1,000 followers, 180 on a good post. You know, less than 100 on a normal one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not you.
Yeah, it's definitely not you.
I'm looking at my Instagram on my phone, and I thought I didn't see guides come up, and I thought maybe I needed to upgrade my app. Maybe I had an old version, but I just went to the App Store and it just said open, not upgrade as an option. So I'm a little confused about.
If you don't have a guide, it's not going to show up on your profile. You just have to, do you see it on the plus sign?
I click the plus sign. Oh, yes, I do see it now.
Yeah. So it's not going to actually show up on your profile until you actually create a guide.
Okay.
And it just looks like a little newspaper type icon on your profile.
I see. Okay. Thanks.
Anybody have a good idea for, Kathy, I'm like you. Sometimes I don't want to mess with my crop ratio, and all of our full sensor cameras have a crop ratio different than what Instagram wants. So when we go to post it, we have that problem. So then you have to resize it. I think 4:5 is what they like, right? So there's also some Instagram, what is it? Resizing apps. So then if you really want your original crop ratio, you would get the white lines, but sometimes that's okay. Anybody have a good recommendation for an InstaSize app?
Where? I mean, what
Question.
are you asking? I'm sorry. Like, it's a
for
square. You could just double tap on a photo and it will zoom out and you can post it as your regular photo.
Right, but our cameras with our crop ratio don't work. What does work is a 4:5, a square. I don't do squares, but I know what our native crop ratio in a full frame DSLR doesn't work, and you're going to lose your original format, the way you want the photo to be seen. So you have to redo it to a 4:5, equivalent to 8:10, and that works perfectly with Instagram. But you can use apps, and the app would give you the bars, if you want the bars on top or on the bottom or the sides. So I was asking if anybody uses a resize app.
I don't personally put it on my post for the white bars, but when I'm doing it on my stories, because the stories is a 16:9, I believe, something like that, I use Unfold, and that just gives you a lot of different frames and options to use for that. I do think that there's templates for your post too. I just don't really have it for there. But otherwise, if I was really concerned about how this image will look on Instagram, I will resize it on my in Lightroom, because you can mess with the ratios there.
Right.
And do it like that.
What's Elliot holding up there? Elliot?
Look, if you
Looks
just
like
double tap.
I understand.
Oh,
If you just double tap, it does your 2:3.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then you can zoom out or you can zoom in and you can move it around and crop it however you want to.
cool.
And then if you set that for your first, however, if you do that and you want to do multiples, it will change that. And then you have to kind of go in and around that. But if you're just doing one at a time, you don't have to worry about those crop sizes.
You know what, Elliot?
They
Maybe it's
changed all
because
that.
it's a horizontal or it's a vertical portrait
Yeah,
style. It doesn't
correct. The vertical, they
work
do
at
chop
all.
off.
Yeah,
That's correct.
chops it
Yep.
off. It's horrible, right?
Yep.
Just
You
take
are
the
correct.
Photoshop and work it
Right.
there.
Yeah. Then you can, if you make it an 8:10, it works.
Let me see. I did have a question, but I forgot.
Angela, have you heard of these? It's not a consortium, but it's a group. And it's a group of like-minded people that have agreed to being in the group and following the rules of the group. If you post, I get a notification that you've posted. And as a member of the group, I will like it. I will, what is it called? Store it or
Save it?
archive it, and I will comment. I will make a 5-word comment, and then you will, in return, because you want the algorithm to see you're engaging, you give me a at minimum 5-word comment back to me, and that's supposed to appear. Do you know what those groups are called?
It's like a pod, right?
It's a pod or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're good, and I've been in one before, but it's good. It's only good as long as people participate, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think we should start one. One.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea if all of you guys just started one and just help and support each other.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Interested.
And then if someone posts, you like it, and you actually save it to your, I don't know, something, and then you comment on it as well. And then you're supposed to, and it's all about timing. So if you can get back to that person quickly and comment on their comments, your algorithm, your whatever it is goes up.
I'm not laughing at you, Shelley. I thought the same thing. Save it to your whatever we saved.
Okay, I'll tell you what it is. I'm sorry. I'll be
No. That's as close as I can. That's probably closer than I can get to.
You know, it's called right there. It's the bookmark. Save to collection.
Oh. I
Yes.
don't think I've ever pushed that
Actually
button.
have different categories for collections. So if you don't want them all scattered, you can just create a collection for your group.
Yeah, so you just call group collection, so then you never have to look at it again. As opposed to my poodle collection.
Exactly.
That you look at daily.
Like poodles again.
Aw, it's a cute one.
Yeah, I need to get my ears trimmed here.
So did Woodstock snag any of that cake?
No, she is very much enthralled by the idea of having some, but she's here and the cake is there.
Okay.
Okay, all
And I
right.
have one hand engaged with holding the dog down.
Andrea, are some people adding music to their reels? Like Professor Hines has come up on my feed, and up at the top he says, Radio City DJs, Diamonds, parentheses, instrumental mix.
Yeah.
So he has a video that he added his own music to it.
Yeah. There's just like on YouTube, you can't have copyrighted music unless, you know, the artist is credited. So if you created a video and there's already music in the video as you're recording it, then Instagram doesn't like that. They want you to add music on top of it through Instagram so that the artist can get credited or the information on it. So that's why you see the song title and the song name on his reels. So that's just what you want, just something to think about if you're going to do reels, to not necessarily do it while you're editing or putting together the reel. You have to put it on top of it.
Okay.
But they have a lot of music to choose from.
Tons,
you know, depending on what kind of music you want to put on it, they have a lot of free, good choices.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like they have a lot, probably everything from like Apple Music you can select from.
Okay.
I have a question. Angela, how often do you check your feed?
Check it in one way.
Well, how often do you look at your Instagram account to see activity on your posts?
I probably, once I post my picture, I'll probably check it a couple times for the first 24 hours. After that, I don't really pay attention to it.
Okay.
Just so that I can comment on other people's comments and see if people are liking it, things like that. So yeah, after 24 hours, I don't really pay attention to it that much.
This is slightly off the subject of Instagram, but on the general topic of social media, are you still using Flickr, and have you found Flickr to be a good marketing tool?
I haven't been using Flickr, and I think the next one that I really want to get more into is actually Pinterest. I feel like I've heard a lot of people say that Pinterest is a great place for photographers, all kinds of photographers too. So that is probably the next one that I really want to dive into.
What about this chalkboard thing? What's it called that everyone's talking about?
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse.
Yeah.
What the F
So
is this garbage? Please tell me. I got on it today and I just said, what in the world is this crap? Can
I agree.
everyone tell
I
me?
didn't hear what you said. What is it?
It's supposed to be a social media site for
What is it
creatives.
called?
Seems like a data mining
Clubhouse.
thing.
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse?
It's all audio based. There's no
It's
visuals
all
to it at all.
audio-based.
It's
There's no
everyone just
text
speaking.
anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just everyone speaking on it. To forget this. I'm deleting it.
Yes, it's like a Zoom meeting without any video
Yeah.
all the damn time. It is
You know,
not my cup of tea.
I don't like it either.
Stupid. That's stupid. I wish
First time,
someone would
Angela,
have
you're
told
the
me.
first person
Everyone
to say I don't like it.
Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's talking about it. You know, unfortunately, I was listening to people who always tell me, you know, the problem is there's a few people who say things and I always go, oh yeah, okay, I'll listen. And then I always go back and be like, you know, they've never said anything that was intelligent. Why do I continue to listen to them? And this is another one of those.
I take
Stop
offense.
talking about
I take
that.
offense
It
to
wasn't
that.
Jen.
Everybody's
It
like,
wasn't
"Ellen's
Jen.
talking about
It
me."
wasn't Jen. It was
Okay.
not Jen.
So about
not
since I
Jen.
brought it up in the whole room thing, the first time I went on Clubhouse because I was late to the game and some of the crews I'm in, I was like, same thing as Elliot. I'm like, this is insane. But then you get into a good room, which you find you get to hear perspectives of some serious photographers from across the world. And I've been lucky, I guess, to be in some very good informative rooms when I've like jumped on. And it's nice because I can just put it on while I'm working or editing and stuff like that. So I do like it, but I did not at first. And I think it's all depends on the rooms you're in.
Is this just people airing their grievances? I mean, is that all this thing
No,
is?
no, not on the ones I've
Festivus
been
for the
on.
rest of us?
No,
No,
not on
I
the ones
did.
I've been
I
on.
found one as well where it was a bunch of photographers discussing something very specific.
Mhm.
And since
many
you're
little
sort of
brass
there
screws.
but not really there, there's a lot of people talking very openly about, you know, I'm not competing with any of the people in there. So, you know, how do you do this, or how do you score this client, or how do you price this stuff? Because it's sort of collaborative that way. But my problem is I don't drive for work anymore, which means I have no idea when I'd have time to listen to that.
Is it
Well,
kind of
it's
like
just
a vocal Reddit threads that are just being chatted instead of typed?
I think so.
It sounds like just
Yeah.
this is
Um,
I'm not old, but I'm very what's
think
it
you
called
are.
whenever you're like old in your ways.
Old
You know?
soul.
Get in your ways.
Curmudgeon-y?
I mean, what
Curmudgeon.
what are you looking for? Elliot?
curmudgeon. That's the word I'm looking for. An old curmudgeon. I'm sorry, and a lot of times I feel this way. Is like the people who are on there all the time literally have nothing else to do with their life,
Mhm.
and I'm always saying, how can you be so constant? How can you be so everything unless you don't have someone else doing it for you? I mean, not a single celebrity has to be sitting there doing that, or they literally have nothing to do the whole day. And that's why I always say is, how does it get me work? How does it get me connected to people who will hire me? How does it get me connected to people who I might need to hire? You know, things along that, other than just entertainment, which is certainly a quality thing. But I just get like the Clubhouse. If it's just people who are going to get on and say something, who's sitting around saying things all day long? I mean,
Well, not
smartest
everybody's
people
on there all
aren't-
day long.
Yeah, but the smartest people have no time for this. They're like, I don't have time for this. They're going to have a margarita on the beach. They're not going to sit around and speak into their phone so some schmuck across the nation can hear it. Like,
I think you'd be surprised at some of the people on there.
There's
All
a
right.
certain
Yeah.
are they
And
people
there
who
could
are
be
selling?
very good connections actually in the whole art world and all that kind of stuff. Cause you've got guys on there who are, they're shooting for these big companies and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Are they really?
Oh,
I don't know. I doubt it. I really doubt
No.
it half the time.
everyone builds themselves up, of course, but you've got some interesting people in there. So
Can I ask one last question of Angela?
Yes.
Wait.
Please.
Angela, do you cross post to both Instagram and Facebook, or do you keep them separate?
I don't, there's like an automatic button where it can,
Right.
if you publish on Instagram, it automatically pushes to Facebook and all of that. I don't do that just because it's also another way of not being as authentic, like being there.
Yeah. I just saw that over there and now I'm seeing it over there.
Exactly. And I feel like if you post the same exact content in all of your social medias, why are people following you on every single social media? So for me, I try to make it a little bit different. I'm on Instagram the most, but on Facebook, like we had mentioned earlier, it's so much easier to post links and stuff like that. So if I'm posting a YouTube video, then I'm more likely to just post that on my Facebook to cross promote that way, as opposed to my Instagram. I might do like a little screenshot of my YouTube and put it in my stories. I won't necessarily put it in my feed because I can't put a link to it on my feed. But I'll post it on my Facebook and on my Twitter because links are so much easier there. Or if I wanted to promote something that I was like really excited about, I'll probably figure out which social media and what my audience on whatever social media platform that they would probably like it more. Like if I was doing IG Live with Professor Hines and it's only on Instagram, then I'm only going to talk about it on Instagram. You know, there's not really that many people who are going to go from Facebook to Instagram to watch an Instagram Live. I don't know. That's up to you if you wanted to do that, but I do try to figure out who my audience is on each of the social media platforms and make it a little bit different. I might post like snow pictures today on Instagram and maybe tomorrow do a different set of snow pictures on Facebook. Just because I feel like, for me personally, I've always thought, is there really a reason to follow the same person on every single social media if they're doing the same exact thing on every single one? So for me, I try to keep it a little bit different.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we all might have a couple more questions that we want to ask each other, but I want to thank Angela for joining us tonight. I'm sure you guys love her as a person. She's I think your personality, Angela, comes through so well in your posts and is so appealing. You do really nice job of communicating your engaging personality. And we really appreciate the way you have shared your knowledge of all these new things about Instagram, the Reels, the IG Live, the IGTV, the guides, and also your tips about relevant timing, ways in which to engage your followers, and how to keep a follower on your post for more than a split second. So we appreciate all of it. And I'm sure a lot of us will be following you and we'll continue to learn from you. And maybe we'll even do a photo walk together someday.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you guys so much for being here. And I really appreciate your comments, questions, all of that. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
much.
Thank you.